The gig economy promises you a big, bold, and bright future. But is that the whole story? Is it quietly robbing you of your ability to actually make an impact and actually make true, long-lasting changes in your life? Now, you've heard a lot of people saying, oh, they're going to move to Dubai, they're going to move to Portugal, they're going to move here, there, everywhere, X, Y, and Z. But the real question is, how can you actually build something sustainably, especially away from a traditional job that feels like a relic? What are the alternatives? Again, we're going to try and answer some of this stuff today and see where we get to. If you see yourself nodding to this topic and you want to see more topics like this, then make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the like button to see more videos like this on your feed. And for those of you who don't know my name, I'm Michael Tabirade, and I help people like you essentially navigate the change in our world in order for you to build a flourishing and prosperous portfolio career. Now, maybe recently you've been searching through job listings or a marketplace or a freelance space such as Upwork, and you see opportunities to work inside of IR35, outside of IR35, become a freelancer for an organization. But then you think to yourself, how do I cover my mortgage payments? How do I ensure I have the right insurances? What about sick pay? What about paternity or maternity pay? What about all of these different things? Is it sustainable? Is it really the silver bullet? Well, if you stay with me long enough, again, we'll talk more about this stuff. Now, of course, if you are already ahead and you feel like actually you want to explore this whole gig economy even more so, especially through something like contracting, then I've got a contracting readiness assessment that you can take. So if this is something you're interested in and you want to know where you're at, then make sure to click the link below to take this quiz and find out what you need to do moving forward. Now, why is it that a stable career is so difficult to build these days? Essentially, we had this social contract where, you basically get paid to essentially deliver what needs to be delivered for X person in exchange for money, a pension, benefits, X, Y, and Z, a sense of sustainability. But in recent times, that social contract is off. The deal is struck off. In 2024, the ONS highlighted 4.3 million self-employed individuals. There are a lot of companies that want to be more agile and flexible by nature. And so when we think about all of these different things, we understand that the world is changing. We've seen this happen. I think 80% cuts at the beginning of the year to X, and we saw Donald Trump say all those within the D, E, and I industries need to be removed or stopped or halted within 60 days of him being in office. We've also seen lots of changes to the public sector. Of course, a lot of money's gone into it. We saw NHS England has been axed, and in the next year or so, they need to be consolidated into the Department of Health and Social Care. So there are no real promises that were guaranteed anymore. And some may argue we never were. Now, you've heard me say this before, 50% of the population within the UK will become some sort of portfolio careerist. And so thinking about all of this stuff, this is being pushed heavily by the fact that we need to be more agile by nature. We're encountering so many different types of change. And so organizations want more risk on the individual, okay? That's what I really meant to say. They want more risk on the individual, which means we're seeing more contractors, more freelancers, more people inside and outside of IR35, and less risk on them. They can't afford to do these things. And so it requires us to have more of a savvy mind by nature. But it also is indicative of how the system has almost failed. Not even almost, it has failed. And therefore, that risk is being misplaced. Now, of course, if you are in the gig economy as a contractor or freelancer, even if you're new within this space, you'll know all too well the anxiety that you may feel when you first come into the space. Did I get this contract out of flukeness or luckiness? When will I get my next contract? Am I doing enough? Am I doing the right stuff? Is there so much change in my industry that I'm never gonna get a contract again? What's happened to all of the recruiters or all my connects? You start to feel all this stuff. And so the simple advice of just update your CV, work hard, and be loyal isn't the game we're playing no more. Yeah, your CV is important. Who you speak to is even more important. Yeah, work hard, but be smarter about how you're working hard and how you articulate and communicate that. Loyalty isn't everything now. Yes, you want to do a good job and you want to show you've been in an organization for long enough, but really, actually, the agility of the world is highlighting that doesn't necessarily make sense. Maybe the loyalty is to the industry instead, or the niche that you're in. So there's a different way of thinking about it now. Now, of course, if you are in the gig economy, like I said, as a contractor or freelancer, there are certain things that you may be seeing as cons. So number one, income stress, the fact that your income may go up and down consistently. there isn't enough consistency in terms of how you make money. Number two, you may feel like there is career stagnation because of the fact that possibly the market isn't providing the opportunities that you're looking for. Actually, you can't really move forward. Number three, major financial exclusion. And what do I mean by this? So because of your status and because of the up and down nature of your income, actually, you don't have the ability to maybe get a loan or maybe get a mortgage or whatever it may be because of how you've been set up. And so what I'm basically saying is there are a lot of things that can make us feel a bit anxious. And actually, if we don't change some of that stuff, then we're going to be in a very difficult. And you know what ends up happening is, funnily enough, the reason why you came out of the traditional role or job is no longer valid because you're looking at your peers within these traditional jobs thinking, if I just stayed within this space, if I was patient, if I stuck at it, I would have got that pension. I would have got that stable income so I can save for a rainy day. I would have got that mortgage and bought that property. All of these things could have happened. So actually, what does the gig economy offer me? And this is where I offer you an opportunity to think about this differently. When we think about a career, we should now think about it in terms of a portfolio. It is a basket of projects, contracts, opportunities, ways to utilize and display your competencies in many different ways. But the most powerful thing about this type of career is that you own it. There has to be ownership. Now, in the traditional sense, in terms of the mindset, that ownership was leased over to the CEO, the boss, the line manager. But in this instance, you are loyal to the vision that you're trying to create. You have to be loyal to that. And so understanding this is key. And I guess moving on from that, it's understanding that with this portfolio, there has to be a sensibility about it. The gig economy is not something you necessarily just jump into. You kind of have to prepare yourself. And actually, there is a transition. And so what people don't speak enough about is that transition. And in my last video, I spoke about these buckets, the core bucket, the growth bucket, and the learning bucket to help us understand in terms of how we can prioritize that transition. And so I would invite you to, number one, think about your career as a portfolio. And number two, think about the transition. It's not about speed. It's not about jumping into this, oh, I want to be free. It takes a while to be free, or to have a sense of freedom. It takes a while. So bear this in mind. So how do we build this lifestyle or life or career that affords us the opportunity? And I've broken it down into three things here. We've got build your financial fortress, design your career portfolio career, and engineer your ecosystem. Really important to understand. So let's start off with the finance element of things, your fortress. Now, there's a number of things that you need to do, okay? And I think it's important to understand your value. What is your worth per hour? What is your worth per day? What is your worth per project? If you can calculate this stuff, then you can understand what sort of things you can target. So for example, if you earn £80,000 a year, or even £50,000 a year, and then you calculate what that looks like after tax, let's say it comes out to be 30K, then really and truly calculating how many days or how many weeks you work in a year, and then dividing that by the net amount or even the total amount will give you either a day rate or an hourly rate. And so when you're looking for opportunities, you think to yourself, is that enough for me? Do I want to make more than this? Or do I not want to make more than this? And if I want to make more, how do I justify that? Well, sometimes it's just business. And it's about how you position yourself. Sometimes it's about how you articulate your portfolio in your CV. And sometimes it's about doing more in order to evidence that you can do this stuff because you understand your market. So understand how much you're worth. In addition to that, you also need to calculate how much money you need to save in order for you to have a comfortable emergency. Some people can't save, which is difficult. They are spread so thin. And so maybe it comes down to paying off some stuff first, finding ways to pay off your bills. And if it's difficult for you to do that, your number one priority is to get a job that pays more. This is not the time to do anything risky or crazy or anything like that. Get an opportunity to find a new job that pays more. Maybe learn a new skill or get taught something or shadow or do volunteering or become a non-executive director or whatever it may be. Get that new job, spend some time there, pay off your debts or whatever it may be. Then you can start thinking about this stuff. But if you're not in that position, it's going to be very difficult for you to do all that stuff. You also want to think about situations where you may be sick. You may need cover for health. you may need cover for your future post-pension age. So what insurances do you have in place? What cover do you have in place? What could you get in place? So this is about financial acumen. This is about financial understanding. Are there opportunities for you to invest? Maybe there isn't. That's okay. You don't have to be ballsy on the investment straight away if it doesn't make sense for you. But you have to look at your financial situation and tell yourself, what do I need to do in order to build up a fortress that's so strong that if anything was to happen in the next 6 months or so, I won't be affected because I'm covered. All my expenses are covered. I know that I spend £3,000 a month as an example. Therefore, what I've got saved, it was 6 times, Marie, 18,000. Some people may be like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. What did I say at the beginning? It's about patience. Stop trying to rush it. Stop trying to rush it. And if that's going to take too long, then maybe your focus is on finding a new job. Some of you are in a position where actually you can jump into contracting, but I'm not going to assume that's what you're doing straight away. I'm not going to assume that you have a business straight away. The second thing is thinking about designing your career. Now, you have to try to get to a point of understanding what you've done in the past, what you're doing now. What does your sensibility tell you? What does experience tell you? What is the market showing you at the moment? And by market, what I mean by that is, what's the news saying? What are people saying? What are the reports saying? When I say people, your friends and family and colleagues, what is data saying? You know, you can check these reports by McKinsey, JP Morgan, Deloitte, EY. They have these free reports online. You can check them out. The World Health Organization, ONS, OECD. These are all reports you can check out and understand the market. You don't even need to do it yourself. You can throw this stuff into Notebook LM and get it to do some deep dives for you in terms of understanding the market. That's a neat way of doing it now. What's the market saying? You can do a video, okay, to yourself. So let's say, for example, you have Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet. You record yourself and you basically get the transcript of that recording. Maybe you upload it onto YouTube as a private video, or maybe you have a software where you can actually get the transcript, or whatever it may be. You get the transcript, you upload that onto Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, whatever it may be, and you get it to do a deep analysis. What are your skills? You don't even necessarily need that. You can learn that from your CV. What problems, actions, and results have you solved? So all of this stuff enables you to understand, okay, given the market and given my current expertise, skills, and competencies, where should I go? This is for people at the beginning. Some of you know where you're at already. Maybe you're in finance, okay? You're a finance person. You've been in finance for the last 10 years. You know, you're a competent consultant. You think to yourself, where do you want to go? Maybe strategically, it makes sense to be an advisor and or a non-executive director for a finance-related charity or company. Maybe there is an opportunity for you to get your qualification as a financial advisor and help the people develop a B2C service and develop your personal brand. Maybe there are other opportunities. Maybe you're not in finance. Maybe you are within a public sector, okay, and you work for the government. And actually, you've been contracting for the government for a very long time. I've got a friend who does this. So maybe you're helping, I don't know, let's say, for example, VC-backed startups understand how to prepare bids for contracts, okay, or for money or for services that they need to deliver. Maybe there is an option there as an advisor. Maybe you are creating a framework, okay, some sort of program or workshops that helps individuals better prepare themselves for public sector management or leadership. There are loads of different things you can do. Maybe you set up a video like YouTube channel or LinkedIn, whatever makes sense to you, do it. But start in a way that makes sense to dissect and understand. Follow the journey. Watch my video before where I talk about core growth and learning, because that will help you just really understand how to prioritize the stuff. The core is where you get paid most, okay? And you focus on that as an important thing. The growth aims to replace the core, but it's something that has the potential to be great. And then the learning is stuff that you can add to your bow, but there's no pressure to monetize. That's essentially what it is. So that's a way to prioritize, you know, what you're doing. But above all of this stuff, you need a personal brand that bangs. And really, a personal brand, think about it, personal. So personal means it's common to you. Okay, it's knowable, it's likable, it's trustable, it's relatable. It's all of these different things. Therefore, there is a uniqueness to it because only you can be you, and there's an authenticity and integrity aligned to it. Therefore, the behaviors and the characteristics and qualities you emit are associations that people either like or not like. The brand element, think about it, personal. is basically highlighting these different things constitute you. They remind me of you. I get the perception of you, and therefore you have the ability to influence one based on all of these things. This is another way of saying, like, the more people get to know you and understand you, the more you can influence them in some way, shape, or form for good. So developing a brand is important. This is why I've chosen video. Video is a way for me to get myself out there, for people to get to know me a bit better and form a deeper connection, where I am hopefully providing some sort of positive value to them as well. Namely in terms of how I live my life and certain ideas that may spark maybe insights for them to take action in the right way. So design your portfolio career in such a way that makes sense from stuff you've done and the market says, it makes sense, but also where you want to go as well. There has to be alignment. And of course, at some point you're going to, or you may move away from this permanent 9 to 5 and you actually might start contracting, etc., etc. You might follow a similar path to myself, some of my friends and colleagues that I've met before in the past. And so you have to build an ecosystem. Like if you're going to become a gig worker, contractor, inside or outside of IR35, freelance contractor, whatever it may be, trainer, advisor, coach, whatever, it makes sense to couple it with other things. So for me, 75 to 78% of my income is all based on contracting. The other odds, I can't do the maths, 22% is made up of coaching, advisory, and mentoring. So that's one bucket. And the other bits are based on digital products. Now, those things are within the growth bucket, within the growth sphere. And actually, those things will grow even bigger and bigger and stronger. But that's where they are at the moment. And so I understand I do the contracting because one, I'm good at it in my chosen field. I'm program management consultant, namely within digital transformations, primarily within public sector and health, but I can do other areas as well. But two, the money I make from that stuff feeds the growth area. It feeds it. Now, what am I doing in the learning area? I'm a non-executive director / trustee for an institute charity and membership body. And I'm also the chair for the Risk and Finance Committee. And so I'm learning things there. I'm learning about finance. I'm learning about risk, incident management. I'm learning about strategy and succession planning and all this kind of stuff at an executive level. So you don't think I can't put that into the growth element when starting up my own business, or even put that into my core element where I'm at right now as a consultant? Of course I can, utilizing all those skills. And so you have to build an ecosystem, because at some point, the thing that you're doing core may not be enough. Last year, the general election happened. Rishi Sunak thought, whatever, let me just put an election. That affected my industry, which meant I was out of a contract for about 5.5 months. Now, luckily, I had some backing in terms of money saved, and I also have my wife. And so if you're by yourself, it's going to be a bit difficult and a bit different, or if you have dependents, it's going to be difficult and different. And this is why I said at the beginning, don't rush this, be smart and sensible. And so that stack of cash and that support system I had was very helpful. So you have to build an ecosystem. You have to make sure you got the right insurances in place. Now, income insurance is a techie one because really it's based on health as opposed to anything else. So not necessarily reliable, but you can look into the different insurances that make sense. And so you have to think about all the different moving pieces to make sure that your ecosystem makes sense, so you can have that sense of freedom that you're looking for. But if you don't have the discipline or the routines to enforce some of this stuff, my friend, listen, it's going to be tough, it's going to be very difficult. And so the stuff, I want to go back to my notes here, stuff I was talking about before in relation to income stress. Well, you understand the market before you jump into anything, and you make sure you do a damn good job, and you speak to as many people as possible who know what you're doing, so that there are opportunities in the pipeline for you. When it comes to career stagnation, well, again, what you do is you evidence what you've done and you display that when it comes to your personal brand, whether this is on the LinkedIn, whether this is updating your CV. You apply for opportunities that are not just the same, but a promotion in some way, shape, or form. I wasn't a program manager when I was doing my job in the NHS before. I was more of an implementation lead or a project manager, so to speak. These are all good roles, but the training I did and the opportunity within the contracting space has afforded me the opportunity. When it comes to financial exclusion, well, if you're a contractor and you sign up with an accountancy that does inside and outside of IR35 tax, then again, the inside of IR35 element of it means that you can use that accountancy or that organization or limited company as your employer. Therefore, you can send that to the mortgage bank association or whatever it may be and say, this is who is employing you, so to speak, because they process your PAYE. When it comes to a retirement gap, it doesn't matter whether you're working a 9 to 5 as a permanent member of staff or a contractor. You should definitely get a self-invested private pension. So could be anything. Could be, what's that thing called? Scottish widow or whatever it may be. Just get a self-invested private pension. Of course, if you're with these accountancies, they usually have people who can do this for you, or at least speak to you. Speak to a financial advisor for more information, or do the research yourself online. Whatever you decide to do, that's an opportunity. And of course, it's an expense that can reduce your taxes as well. So that's always going to be a benefit, and you're saving for the future you. So actually, there were mitigations for all of that stuff. It just comes down to how you frame it as an individual, essentially. Really, even though the gig economy poses these opportunities, it doesn't promise anything actually. The promise essentially comes from you as a person. We have shifted from many different ages, whether it's from the agricultural age to the industrial revolution to the information age to now, I don't know what this age is. Is it the AI age? Is it the age of, think, empathy, Tony Robbins once called it, the humanistic age? Whatever this is, the ages are becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. They're getting faster. They're accelerating. And information is being democratized, and there are more opportunities, but the principles are the same. It is dependent upon you. You get to design it, no one else. And so actually, the gig economy does give us a chance to take ownership. It's just that we haven't been trained to think this way. So we need to now think in a way that affords us the opportunity to create an ecosystem that makes sense. I want to leave it there because there's no point me harping on. Again, like I said before, if you want to become a contractor, I've got this consultant readiness assessment that you can click below. I've got loads of resources that you can check out, whether it's the gear that I use or whether it is different services that I use, or maybe it's just different free gifts that you can check out as well. So check the links in my description to find out more. And listen, if you want to see more videos centered around contracting, independent consulting, portfolio careers, all of that kind of stuff there, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.